assistance in Texas is becoming more difficult. Increased pandemic SNAP benefits have ended, and the process to qualify can be restrictive. KLTV's Christine Guevara reports there is a push for state lawmakers to adjust what's known as the vehicle asset test.
The vehicle asset test is an essential aspect of the SNAP application process.
It takes your value of your vehicle into account on whether you qualify or not.
The current restrictions say an applicant's primary vehicle cannot exceed a cost of $15,000, and for additional vehicles, a maximum of $4,600. These limits have not changed since 2001 for the first car, and for the second car since 1974.
It's a pretty antiquated idea, in my opinion. Just transportations need to live, especially here in rural East Texas, and holding that against people, especially seniors that are on a fixed income, is really hurting their ability to live.
In the state of Texas, over 11,000 households were denied SNAP food benefits due to the vehicle asset test in 2019. That number jumped to 54,000 in 2022. But here in East Texas, 500 households were denied in 2019. In 2022, that number grew to almost 2,400. That is why Texas food banks are calling on legislators to make an update. East Texas Food Bank predicts that the number of East Texans at the food pantries will grow as grocery prices continue to rise, and ultimately if change is not made to the test.
They're going to be relying on that emergency food resource a little bit more than usual. Some of these produce distributions are going to get more busy, so we want to make sure we're there in case that happens.
Christine Guevara, KLTV 7 News.
The East Texas Food Bank says it currently stands as a bipartisan bill, both Republicans and Democrats in favor of an update.